I hope you enjoyed the last couple of days between, or since our last webinar. All right, looks like some more people can see and hear me. That's good news. That's really what I'm looking for there. So last class, what we did is reviewed for some of you and new material for some of you, went over Scratch, which is a programming language, but it's a little bit different than our previous programming languages, specifically Python that we have discussed over the past couple of weeks. So we are using Scratch because we are going to be messing around with some games for our Raspberry Pi coming up in the very near future here. And Scratch is natively supported on the Raspberry Pi, so you know, it's just a good thing all around. We'll also be making real-life things work based on our programming of the Raspberry Pi, so that's going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks here. So last class, basically all we did is go over a couple of features of Scratch, and we began to program our own Pong game. Where we left off, oops, I see a question for, are we only doing Scratch? Yeah, we are only doing Scratch for today. So if you do feel comfortable with it, I do ask that you at least stay on for, you know, working on the Pong game. But at the end of class, I'm going to sort of let you all do, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Sort of a free building of this Pong game. There's a lot of different things you can do with the Pong game. They updated the website. Who did? Scratch? Did they? Looks the same to me. Can you still access everything, or maybe, oh, I didn't see that. Okay, it looks like some of you have it, but I most certainly do not have the new update for the Scratch homepage. It's the same website, hopefully, so hopefully you will still be able to go back to what you made last class, which shouldn't be too much now. All we did last class is program the top looks different. Oh, okay, I didn't even notice. Again, we're not using our Raspberry Pis today, but we will start using them on Monday. So next Monday, you will need to have your Raspberry Pi. You will need to have a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse. So that's starting Monday. So I believe that those in Raleigh, we did schedule a lab for this Saturday as a makeup. Your parent should have gotten an email. I haven't checked my email, so I need to see that as well. But so for Raleigh folks, please reply to that email saying if you can make it or not, or have your parents do the same thing. Anyway, sorry. I'm really good at getting distracted. So what we did last class, we started making our Pong game. We created our 3 different sprites. The first one going to be the Pong ball. Hang on. Webinar software is blocking my screen. So, see a question. Your computer's being weird. Of course your computer's being weird, Marissa. You need to get yourself a new computer for Christmas or something. Anyways, we worked on getting these sprites ready, the first being the ball, the second being wherever it may be in the slideshow. Goodness gracious. Okay, boop, boop, boop. The second being the paddle for our Pong game, and the third being our dead zone. So right now we should have a game that looks something like this. Now I'm sure that, well actually, I'm not sure that. We should have at least the ball and the paddle already programmed, but I'm going to go over that real quick just in case one of you all forgot. Now, By default, Scratch will save all of your games. So go ahead and find out the game you were working on last class and open it up so that you're on this page here. You can do this by, on the home page, going to, or clicking on your username, and then going to My Stuff, and then finding whichever project you were working on last class. Is it possible to create an INI for a player? Remind me what INI stands for again, Cameron. A file for a player? Huh. I don't know. Because if you can import it, there is a way that you can add variables in Scratch, so you'd have to write a script for it, but yeah, I think you could do it. Yeah, you can do it in Python pretty easy. So, yeah. So go ahead and open that game up. This is what we've got so far. Let me show you the code for what we've done so far. The first is going to be the code for our ball. For me, it's going to be an apple, but whatever. Over here in the script area, we have just a very, very basic code for it. Your dead zone and trampoline are gone. Could you go over how to make them again? Yeah, you still have the ball though, right? Okay. I will go over the dead zone, which I haven't programmed yet, and the paddle, which we barely programmed last class. That's when I was spacing out like no one's business. For the apple, though, it's very simple piece of code. What we've got is when we click on this green flag to run our program, we are going to point our apple in the direction 180, which is straight down. And within a forever loop, meaning that these two pieces of code are going to run forever until you stop the program, our ball is going to move 10 steps, and if it hits an edge, it's going to bounce in the opposite direction. So we haven't done any sort of collision, we haven't done anything fun yet, other than have this ball going. It looks like in this class I did not even go over the paddle. Okay, so I'm a little bit behind than I thought I was. So the next thing we're going to we need to program is going to be our paddle, right? So our paddle, we went over the code last class, but it's essentially going to be similar code to what we did where we say if the right arrow is clicked, then we're going to change our X position of our paddle by 10 steps. Okay. So just like before, we're just going to do a basic start when the green flag is clicked. This is for a paddle, so make sure you have your paddle sprite selected. So far, all of the events that we want to have happening when we click on the green flag. Where was I going with that? I don't know. Anyways, we want to start with the green flag is clicked. All right. So if we want to make our paddle do something forever, what would we use? Just as a quick throwback from last class, we want something to repeat over and over. We're going to use, you got it, John, forever loop. So remember, most of the programming concepts that we've gone over in Python can be found within the control script block. And in this case, we're looking for a forever loop. We want this paddle to do something always after we start our script. So what we're wanting to do to this paddle is make it so it goes right when I click the right arrow and left when I click the left arrow. So how we would do that is, once again, in the control menu, go ahead and throw an if-then loop. Yeah, you got it. Perfect. That was actually perfect timing. You would use an if-then loop. What's cool about Scratch is that you can have a user input. It wouldn't be a very fun game if it was without user input, right? So the sensing block underneath the control block is where we can find a piece of code to do this. And yeah, you got it, the sensing right key. Specifically, it's going to be the key space pressed. We're going to put that inside of this if statement where the weird elongated hexagon is. And Marissa's got it right here. Yeah, it's basically key blank pressed, because we can change that. But when we have the right arrow pressed on our keyboard, we want our code to do what? We want our paddle to do something very easy here. Motion tab, move 10 steps. Yeah, we want it to go right. Remember that the 10 is referring to, in this case, the X axis, meaning it's going to be the horizontal axis. That's just based on how we oriented our paddle last class. And remember, to change the orientation of your paddle, you can go click on the eye on your sprite and change its default direction with these, or specifically the direction box here. But we won't need to worry about that. We've already done it. So let's do the same thing that we did for the right arrow, or actually before we do that, let's see if it actually worked. Yay, that worked. Now let's do the exact same thing for the left arrow. So that if statement, okay, there we go. The left arrow is pressed. How many steps we got to move for the left arrow? Yep, -10. Let's see if it works. There's no collisions yet, but we have our paddle working. You can't complain about that. So I'm going to give you just a second to make sure you've gotten this code. Please raise your hand once you've gotten this in and ready to continue. I just want to make sure that y'all have a solid baseline so later on you can have more fun doing some extra customization of your game. And this stuff shouldn't be terribly hard. This is very similar to what we were doing in Code Combat last week. So. That's a wonderful question. Should we set a position of X and Y at the beginning of our code? So this is a really good question because notice that when our code is not, I guess even when our code is running, we can just move our paddle all willy-nilly. So if I have my paddle, say, way up here and I start running the script, check it out. It's still doing the same thing, moving left and right, but that's definitely not where we want the position to be of our paddle. So that's a good thing to take into consideration. What you could do to set the paddle's initial position is literally place it somewhere that there would, yeah, exactly, because the second that this thing would hit the paddle, it would go straight to the dead zone. Pretty messed up. I don't think I like that idea. What you could do is move your paddle into a specific spot and take note of where your mouse cursor's coordinates are. So right now my mouse is at, about -10, -140. So in the motion tab, there is an option called go to X number, Y number. And let's throw that actually in there, outside of the forever loop. Why outside of the forever loop though? Why would this be in the wrong place if we put this inside the forever loop? So I need to move that again, but you'd be stuck. It would stay in the same spot. Every time that you would initiate this code, every time this code would loop, it would set your paddle back to its initial position. So I'm just trying to figure out a good spot to set my paddle. There we go. When you press left or right arrow, it always moves to the right. Huh, that's interesting. You made sure your code is right in that your left arrow is going to move -10 steps. No, you just fixed that? Alright, go into your Sprites menu and click on the eye next to your Sprite paddle. Is your direction going to be 90 degrees? Is that where it's at? And you made sure to stop and restart running your code, right? Alright. So that's my basic troubleshooting. Does anybody else have any idea why this could be happening? The question is, whenever the left or the right arrow is clicked, the paddle always goes to the right. The two things I suggested were making sure that you're moving -10 steps when the left arrow is pressed, and making sure that your direction is properly oriented. Does anybody else have a guess, just even a suggestion, on how this could be fixed? And you could just say it. Does he have the key set to left? I guess I didn't ask that, but... Yep, it is set to left, so it's not that. Trying to think. I don't think the rotation style would matter for the paddle, so I don't think that would be the issue here. It wasn't set to -10? Oh, well, I guess it just shows you the importance of double checking that your code is right, or double checking that your code is running appropriately before you assume that it's a computer issue. But it happens, so you just gotta sort of get used to double checking, triple checking, which will be especially important as you found out in Code Combat, and also when we start working with Python proper in the future. But don't worry, man, it happens all the time. So no pressure, no stress, all is good. So now we've got the ball sorta coded, but we do have the paddle totally coded. So there's still a couple things that we're going to need to do. Where am I actually? Hang on. We haven't quite started coding the dead zone yet, but we'll work on that soon. I guess the next thing we're going to go over then is going to be in the operators script box here. We're going to actually start programming collisions into this game so that the ball will actually do something when it hits the paddle instead of just bouncing up and down. So I want to make sure that you all have... See, Marissa's just on point. She is totally on point. you are going to want to use a certain operator to select a random direction to go in. And Marissa got it right. Pick random degrees to point in. There's a couple different things we have to do to get that piece of code to work, though. Yep, in an if-then statement. You got it. So we're going to make sure that we are back into our Apple Sprite. And we're going to have to do a whole bunch of stuff, so get ready. So within our if statement here, or sorry, within our forever statement, we are going to want to put an if-then statement. Nope, not that. Not there. We're going to make it so if the ball is touching the paddle, then it does something. All right, so if we go into the sensing paddle, we can bring over this touching blank and scroll down to our paddle. This is why it's sort of important to name your different sprites something that you'll remember. So if the ball is touching the paddle, we're going to do some stuff, right? What we're going to do is actually point our ball in the direction 0 degrees, which should be straight up. And just like Marissa said, we're going to need to use the pick random 1 to 10 operator. Actually, I forgot something before we do that. There we go. The turn blank degrees operator needs to be used. All right, so what's cool is we can actually put this turn however many degrees clockwise in this, but we can also put the pick number where the degrees are. So what I mean by that, and let me expand my screen some. For some of these blank spots, specifically the ones that are circles, just like the turn blank degrees, you can put corresponding pieces of code inside of it. So notice that the operators block, the icons, some of them are circles, some of them are, hexagons. We can put circles within circles. That's not a very intelligent way to say it, but and it's actually not going to be picking between 1 and 360. I want you to consider the fact that what if we initially point the ball straight up and the random number it picks is 180? Where's that ball going if we pick random 1 to 360? It's going to go straight down, right? So we want to actually pick a set of numbers where it makes a little bit more sense. So in this case, it's really well, I guess it doesn't really depend on. In this case, let's go and pick something like -20 to 20. I think that is the way that it likes it in this program. Let me double check that's right, though. There we go. Yeah, so let's do -20 to 20, but you can increase that up to 89 either way if you want to make the ball's motion a little bit more erratic. All right. So if it's touching the paddle, then point in direction 0, turn blank degrees, and we're going to put the pick random operator from -20 to 20. Why does it keep? Sorry, the webinar software is being weird right now. Yeah. Though that was a good thought. It would be something that you'd see being an issue once you tried it out. So another thing about the ball, it's just like the paddle, where sometimes, depending on where you place the ball, it might not be beneficial to have no set point to start your ball at. So I guess just here, this is a very basic game now. Awesome. And actually, yeah, come to think of it, this will be about where it starts becoming a game and less of just something boring. So I can actually sort of play it. I mean, I still don't have the depth programmed, but it's a very basic game, and I can make it more difficult by changing the number of degrees. But you can actually play it now. Where I was going to go with that, though, is I would like for you, just like you did with the paddle, set a starting position for your ball by using the go to X. So I see a couple different questions here. Can you do a variable with lives, and can you do different levels? I don't see why not. That's sort of what our free time at the end is going to go towards. Another question, if you Google search Atari Breakout and go to images, there's a game kind of like what we're making. Oh, I've definitely seen this before. I could sit there and play that for way too long. But yeah, that's basically what we're making right now. So it's pretty cool. I just Google searched Atari Breakout and went to the images, and it just started playing. So yeah, I'm going to start my ball, though, let's just say 30, 50. But you can start yours wherever you'd like, as long as it's not going to make you die immediately. Not 550. So now the ball will always start in that one same place. Also, if you really wanted to be a little bit sadistic, you could point the ball to go in a random direction. And that's something that you can do later. Instead of pointing it straight down, maybe have the ball go wherever. And that actually you can go between 0 and 360, or 1 and 360. How do you create a different stage or scene? To create a new one, you would click on Stage, right next to all the sprites. And underneath there's new backdrop options. So you can change it so you have a default. You can change it to have a new backdrop if you die. But since I haven't even taught you the dying script yet, I'll wait just a few minutes before I get started on that one. All right. Oh, you really didn't know you can change the background? Oh, wow. I'm sorry. Yeah, I just didn't go over that too long, but there's a problem with the game. When it hits the side at a certain angle, it will just bounce slowly back and forth, slowly moving up until it hits the top. Do you know which angle it is by chance, or does it just happen when it hits the wall randomly? Because if it's happening right after it hits the paddle, you can code around that. Other than that, that's a weird bug that you'd have to tinker around with. I've never heard that one before, but I believe it. Scratch is not perfect. I guess just try to set your angle to be a little bit different. That would be my suggestion. All right, so that was a lot different than the code I was expecting them to do here, because this is a very, very simple way that we can make a death script. So we're actually not going to be coding this within the death sprite. We're going to actually be coding this within the ball sprite. And we're going to use another if-then statement. If it hits at a 90 or negative 90. All right, so do 89 or negative 89 instead of 90. Because, yeah, it will go back and forth. It'll go just straight bounce, 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 bounce. So if you don't do 90, it'll work. In fact, I think it's a little bit more chaotic when you do like 89 because the ball's going like, oh, physics says it should bounce right back off. Nope. Anyway, we're going to use an if-then statement. And just like with the paddle, we're going to drag the touching into our statement. But instead of touching the paddle, we're going to be touching our dead zone. So you made your ball change color every time you start. And that's something that you can do very easy. Did you do it by making different costumes, or did you make it, how did you do that? I'm just curious. Looks. Change color effect. That's probably how you did it. But yes, you can make the ball change colors every time you start. You made it pick random 1 to 5. Let's see if I can get that to work. Just cause. Nope, not this time. Oh, it's in change costume. Oh, okay. Hang on. I'm still not really seeing where you found that. Switch costume to, and then change color effect. Anyways, while you do that, I'm going to finish up Dead Zone. Right. We're actually going to go into the Looks tab. See, that's what I thought. He was doing it in costume. Oh, switch costume to pick random 1 to 5. Okay, so you did do it via the costumes tab like I thought. You just had a bunch of different colored apples and then do costume, change 1 to 5. Okay, I see what you mean. Anyways, we're just going to do something real easy here. If it's touching the dead zone, we're going to hide the ball. Which basically means we've died, darn. So at this point, we have a working, very basic game. Can you make it flash a message? Yep, definitely. And actually, if you add the hide, you will need to add a show. So that the ball shows back up every time you run the game. So you should have something that's sort of like this for your Apple code and something that looks sort of like this for your paddle code. Now I've seen all sorts of different ideas that y'all have had that you can use to make this game a little bit cooler. Because again, we have something very basic here. It's playable, but it's not very comprehensive, I think. So in addition to your ideas, here's a couple of more ideas of how you can change your game to make it a little bit more interesting. So there's this, make it flash a message, just like Samuel with the ball changing color every time you start, creating a variable with different lives or levels that you're at. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. And if you've used Scratch before, at this point I'm going to let you sort of do some messing around on your own. Oh, you can't hear me? Can anyone else hear me? Hang on. You can? Oh, okay, cool. Alright, good to know. Anyways, for those who have used Scratch before and sort of know some of the tricks, I will let you start doing more and more customization. For those of you who are not as familiar with Scratch, I will go into a little bit more complicated, specific sort of things to make your game more cool. So some skills that you will need to do this is really just getting used to the programming variables that, sorry, not the programming variables, the programming techniques, including variables, if statements, some more loops, broadcasting, which is basically, just making something go on your screen, using operators, adding stages and sprites, and you'll need to be organized and you'll need to be creative. So darn, isn't that just unfortunate? So I'm going to go over to my other PowerPoint now, and I guess we're going to start by making 2-player Pong. So how is this different, other than aesthetically, than the game I have here? How is this different than your game? There can be 2 players. You got it. And as a result, there are 2 dead zones, and there's actually a way to win, yeah, instead of just playing against yourself. 2 dead zones, 2 paddles, and you'll need to program this ball so that depending on which paddle, or even each dead zone that it's touching, it will behave a little bit differently. So yeah, 2 players, double-sided, you can win. Perfect. So we'll need to actually change up our sprites a little bit. To change this game, actually I'm gonna start on a new game actually. Rename this one Basic Pong. But I'm actually going to go into a new file for this because it is going to be a little bit different of a game. I feel like it's just going to be easier to reprogram it than it would be to just change everything. So what we're going to need to do, oops, I did not mean to duplicate that. That's not what you need to do. My computer's just freezing up. There we go. We'll need to do the exact same thing we did initially to set up our game, except this time we will need to make it vertically instead of horizontally. So in our first game, we had 3 sprites, right? We had ball, dead zone, and paddle. So we're going to need to do the same thing. We only need to make those 3 different sprites. So I'm going to choose a ball. Let's do Happy Halloween Bat as our ball this time. Let's make a paddle. I wonder if they have a web. That'd be fun. That's not. Let's do a snowflake. Because why not? No, I don't like the snowflake. I lied. And this is a bad thing about Scratch. It's a lot of fun to just be like, oh, I want it to look this cool. Oh, wait, there's something cooler here. And you can really easily get distracted. But I'm also very distractible. So let's see. Let's make a bus. But if you want to make something different, if you want to make your own sprites, you want to make sure that they are going up and down and not horizontal like this. So let's see. So there's going to be my paddle. And for my dead zone, I'm going to draw a new one. There we go. Since there are 2 players, though, what will he have to do? We'll need to make 2 more bus in Sprite, or in, I guess I should rename this, something more convenient. How do you make it vertical, you mean? What I do to make it vertical is go into the information for your sprite, and I think by default your direction is going to be 90 degrees, but you can change it to 1, or to 0, sorry. And actually for this one I'm going to change it because I'm about to duplicate this sprite. Actually, no, I'm not about to duplicate the sprite quite yet. Sorry. Now's a good time to just code everything as we did before. So for our paddle, we just need to code its movement. Oops. It's not going to be right arrow and left arrow this time. Even I messed that one up. So normally, it depends on which side that you're coding for, or which side that you are programming. You can't just use up and down. Yeah, there we go. That's exactly where the issue was that I was going for. Instead of using the left and right arrow, you're probably going to want to use WASD. In this case, I'd probably use W for going up and S for going down. That's just sort of a standard in gaming. To duplicate it, which you're not going to want to do quite yet, not until you code it, you right-click on your sprite in the sprites menu and then duplicate. So that way, both of your sprites do have code that you already wrote for them in both, but you'll need to make sure that you change your keys to up and down instead. So let's see if it worked. Looks like I did that one backwards, but should be. Can you drag the code and put in the other Sprite because you already have 2 paddles? Yeah, I don't see why not. You just want to make sure that your orientation is right as well. Like mine was just messed up, so. And then let's make another dead zone. Where is it? I don't like that sometimes I can't see it. Does anyone know how to find or where to find items that are not within the screen parameters? Is there an easy way to do that? It's just one of those things that only happens occasionally. Well, Sprite tab. I could move them to a certain X and Y, which is really what I should do. I was just seeing if there was a way to more easily just make it pop up. Yeah, I guess I will have to do that, won't I? Go to paddle for what? I'm just going to go ahead and set. There's a go. Oh, is there a go to button anywhere? Or is it within one of the. I'm confused. Oh, okay. That's not what you meant, is it? Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. Is that what you meant? No. I know this kind of sounds dumb. I'm sorry. It's just something that I've never been able to fix. And, you know, when you don't know something, you might as well ask, right? That. Ah. Good to know. Thank you. Awesome. That's my tutorial of the day. Good to know. And so let's program our bat. I already forgot how to code mine. Oh, goodness. Gracious me. I'm going to make it so when it touches paddle 1, but we also need to make sure that we worry about paddle 2. So paddle 1 is going to be my left paddle. So what we're going to do, once the ball hits it, we're going to make sure that it points in the direction, I think it's 90, to make it go right. And then we're going to make it move a random angle, just like we did before. We can do the same thing for the second paddle, except we're going to want to point it in the direction of -90. So let's see if we got this working. No, clearly not. Oh, duh, I forgot to set movement to it. Just like before, we will want to program it so that the ball will hide once it hits a dead zone. So once again, we throw another if-then statement in there. I'm going to do something a little bit funky because I think this will probably work. I'm actually going to go into the Operators tab and use the blank or blank option. I guess it doesn't work like that. Maybe? Hang on. Oops. Ta-da! So all I've done is expanded the code that we wrote before, did a little bit of changing of the directions, and wrote about twice the amount of code here to make a working two-player game that you and your friends can play. Probably very boring at this point, though. There's still a lot of cool stuff that we can add to make it more interesting. I think what I should do next is probably variables, so we can make a scoreboard. So let's see here. Let's go into the Data tab real quick and click on Make a Variable. Actually, I lied. Let's go to, I believe it should be dead one. Let me double check that. No, I guess not. All of it. Wait, hang on one second. Let me double check these notes. Yerp a derp a derp. There's a better example for it. We're going to make two variables. Score 1 and score 2. What was the code for the ball again? All right, let me go back to that real quick. So far, this is the code for the ball. There's going to be more in just a second, but In fact, I will be changing the dying part momentarily as well. Actually, in the interest of time, I don't know how much more I'll be able to go over and finish today. So while I don't normally give homework, I would like to give you an optional thing that you can do involving fixing up your game some, making it look a little bit more polished, a little bit more refined, and then sharing the link to it on Edmodo. Just so, you know, everyone else can see and play it, which I think would be kind of cool. So let's see. I know there's a way to do it. We have to share it. So when you have a finished game, I want you to name it something that you'll remember. You accidentally deleted your dead zone when you meant to press duplicate. All right, I think what you can do is hit Control Z on a PC or Command Z, Z as in zombie, on a Mac, and it should bring it back, I think. But Mac back, I rhyme. I'm just the best poet ever. It did not work. All right, what I would do then, honestly, I'd probably just make a new one since there isn't much code for it yet. Can I show the paddle codes? Yes. But yeah, optional assignment, if you want to fix up your game and make it look really nice so you're all totally ready for next week, there is an option in the upper right-hand corner to share. And by the way, this is the left paddle code. Okay. There is a share button in the upper left-hand corner. I'm sure if you click it, it will give you options to share it. There will be an email that comes to your account, or to your email account, that you'll have to confirm that you'd like to share it, and then post that share link onto Edmodo. So this is my code for the left paddle. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Here's my code for the left paddle. Can you show how to make the ball go slow? You can move fewer steps at a time for the ball. So you can change it maybe from 10 to 1. I don't know how much slower that's going to go, but that's the fun in this. You can see in real time. Oh, wow, that's slow. You can see in real time how much the ball's going to change. And so you can do cool stuff like make it change speeds randomly. That's really the first thing that comes to mind there. But anyways, lots of cool stuff you can do. So if you want to do that assignment, I would love to see them. Otherwise, you are free to go for the day. Again, Raleigh folks, make sure that you check your email or your parents check their email regarding Lab Saturday, this coming Saturday. But if you need to go, you're free to go. And thank you for coming out today. 6 is good, not slow or too fast. Okay, it's good to know. I mean, I think 10's great, but you can always make it go faster the higher the score is. All right, take care. No problem, Marissa. I will talk to you Saturday or Monday. Bye.